mai kako. Mahalo for joining us today. We are the K through 2 kumu from Malama Honua Public Charter School in Waimanalo. I am Jessica Pi iohia, and I'm one of the first and second grade kumu.
Aloha, I'm Kumu Melissa Long. I am the other grade 1-2 kumu at Malama Honua.
Hello, kumahana kako o wau o Kēhau Pi iohia. I'm the kindergarten kumu at Malama Honua. Mahalo no ko ea ana me ka ho'olohe ana I kēia lā. Before we start, we want to mahalo a few people who are helping us put this together. We want to say mahalo to Kanaeokana, also to our po'okumu Denise Espana, and our new assistant kumu this year, po'okumu Anu. We also want to say mahalo to Auntie Alice and Chelsea for helping us ground our curriculum and pushing us to share this with all of you right now. So mahalo for joining us today. If you're not here to learn about culture or place-based learning and distance learning, this might not be the Zoom for you. But if you are, I can't wait to have you with us today. Okay, e mau mai ka ike. So we are going to be talking about how we adapted our end of the year ho'ike projects, but still being rooted in culture and place. So before we go forward, I want to talk about this picture just a little bit. This was our end of the year ho'ike, where we actually still had haumana come together over Zoom and share their learning through the year. This is a really, really exciting piece for us because a lot of distance learning kind of felt separated, and this is one time where all of our haumana got together. This is K1 and 2 with their ʻOhana, and it's just a really nice picture to show how distance learning brought us together. So today we're going to be talking about how our Hawaiian-focused charter schools still maintain place and culture-based curriculum during distance learning. That's our essential question that we're going to be exploring today. We're also going to be talking about just the ho'olauna of Malama Honua Public Charter School and our kind of roots and our background. We're also going to talk about what a Hawaiian-focused charter school is, and then we're going to go into Malama Honua's curriculum. We're going to be talking about how we navigated through some really rough seas of distance learning. And then we're going to be sharing some great hana that came out of this and how, as a K through 2 team, we designed a project that could really showcase what the haumana could do at home. And then we're going to show some examples of their work, and hopefully that will inspire all of you as well. So these are our olelo of COVID-19. So Ovaila, who are we? Malama Honua, we're a Hawaiian-focused charter school. We were birthed with the Malama Honua Worldwide Voyage, and we're a K through 8 elementary program with lower elementary and middle school. We are founded on cultural values and the Manava navigator skills, and that really brings us back to who we are. When I first started working at Malama Honua, it was only 2 years old, and now we're embarking on year 7 as a kula, so it's really exciting. We are located on 3 different campus sites. We operate out of 3 different sites, and at times it makes it challenging, but we have really been committed to still being grounded together. So we still try to start our day with our piko vehena as a whole school, and we engage in protocol, and we share our mission and promise, and that really guides our learning through the day. So we talk about our values and our mind of the navigator skills, and that really makes sure that our learning is focused throughout the day. So here are our values. So in the middle, you can see the 6 values that make our kula really special and important. We know that at the heart of the navigator, they need to have a compassionate heart. And so we're really trying to grow that with our keiki at Malama Honua. So our values are aloha, iniike, na'aopono, olokino maikai, malama, and loko maikai. And then on the blue around the circle, those are the mind of the navigator skills that you're going to hear us talking about. And they're really skills that produce lifelong learners. So even as kumu, we are always checking back in and making sure that we can communicate, collaborate, that we're listening to our āina for environmental awareness, that we know who we are as kanaka to portray confident culture identity. Ethical problem solving, how do we use the knowledge from our kūpuna to help solve problems of today with our āina, civic responsibility, engaging in the community, working as a group member, and global awareness, how all those things are connected on a larger scale. So we're a Hawaiian-focused charter school. We're part of a larger network of 14 schools. And it's really looking at how we prepare haumana to pukakula and be out in our environment as Native leaders and Native well-being, and have a strong Native well-being. We're having kind of two big lenses here. So there's this cultural knowledge and responsibility to family, community, and environment in the red lens. And then our blue lens is our college and career readiness. And at Malama Honua, it's always been a challenge to try to balance both of those pieces. But we are really committed to making sure that our keiki are makoko. And it's kind of having these two buckets of knowledge to make sure that they're overlapping, that there's a nice balance between. And we couldn't do that without the support of our other Hawaiian-focused charter schools. So we just want to say mahalo to them as well. And I'm sure you're going to see some of their great work too shared on some of these series. So we're going to talk a little bit about Malama Honua curriculum. And like that slide previous, how they had our two lenses. So here's our college and career readiness, where we still have a very somewhat traditional language arts and math program and a tech education program. That's that college and career readiness. However, it's really coupled with our exploration. So in our exploration is kind of where all of our other sciences, social studies standards get covered. But really at the core is this knowledge from our kūpuna. So our ike kūpuna, how we're grounded in āina and project base, and really our place too, our olelo of Waimanalo, and how we connect to our ʻOhana and Kaiauru in Waimanalo. So Malama Honua is founded on the knowledge of our kupuna, but we're also looking really at what's happening in today's world to make positive change for the future. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Kumu Pi iohia. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Kumu Kēhau. She really gave us a nice setup about what our school is about and how we are set up. And so normally that's how we would plan out for the year. And then this year, like everyone else, we got thrown into a totally new situation. And so when distance learning began for us, there was so much confusion, anxiety, and unknown for everyone involved. Like everyone else, we were trying to navigate this new situation. We did our best to make plans and to get some kind of learning up and running as quickly and smoothly as we could for our haumana. But there always seemed to be more challenges and questions than solutions and answers. So one of the things, as Kumu Kēhau had mentioned, one of the things that we decided we needed to move forward with was our morning piko that we always do. And as we began this piko, one of the first olelo noia we talked about was he wa'a, he moku, he moku, he wa'a. And our Minds of the Navigator skills that are at the core of our school connect really nicely to this olelo noia. And they remind us that all those skills that make us successful on the wa'a can also make us successful in everything we do. And so although during this COVID time, our moku had gotten smaller and changed from our kula and community to our homes, we still needed to continue on the journey we had set forth for the year. So our big question became, how do we do that? How do we continue to be who we are as Malama Honua through COVID? So we had to readjust our thinking and adapt to the challenging circumstances. We needed to ask ourselves questions like, who was on our wa'a now? How had our roles on the wa'a changed? And although our destination may be the same, was our course going to change? And how are we going to get to that destination? This reminded us that we also had to live the skills that we were teaching our students. So we began to think again about those core skills that made up our school. And so some of those things that were our foundation, as Kumu Kēhau had mentioned, is the āina, is our kuleana to our community, our school values, and then our project-based learning. How are we as Kumu going to make sure that all of that continued through this time? So we met as a K-2 team to discuss all of these things that we were trying to figure out. And our first step towards that journey was Makahana Ka'ike projects. So each week we asked students to take on a new project and to build and create using materials that they had at home. So we had many different projects, as you can see on the screen. We asked students to build ba'a, to make le, to make ohe kapala, to build hale, and to reimagine makahiki games. And once we started asking for these projects, we were so thrilled with the response we got, not only from our haumana, but from all of the ʻOhana as well. Kids were making projects above and beyond what we expected. And we were just really, really proud to see that work continued. So this led us to begin to think about our third trimester projects. Each year, we spend the year learning about a different theme. So this year, our papahoku learned about kai, and our papa mahina learned about uka. And so as they're learning about these different areas in our ahupua'a and how they're being affected today, what we're working towards is our third trimester projects and how we can eventually make some kind of positive impact in this area. So COVID really threw us off because we thought that these projects may not be able to occur. But these makahana kaike projects showed us that the kids could do these kind of projects at home. So we began to think about our third trimester projects as a K-2 team and what that might look like for us. So as Kēhau mentioned, we are parts of Hui, a Hawaiian-focused charter schools that are working on culturally relevant assessment, and we're so appreciative to be a part of this Hui and this collective. And we use the kupu framework. And what the kupu framework is it's built out of ku'auhau, kukupu, and ho'ike. Ku'auhau looks at how we can use ike kūpuna to navigate the present and future. Kukupu focuses on academics and problem solving using data, research, and experiences to understand and enact our kuleana. And ho'ike focuses on the presentation of this learning and provides haumana an opportunity to present this learning to an authentic audience. And so we know that these are not three separate things, that they all work together and that they all also build off of each other. So as we were making the outline for the third trimester project, we wanted to think about each of these things and how we could ask our haumana to do that at home. So we began by looking at ku'auhau. For this project, we wanted our haumana to build on all the knowledge that they had gotten that was grounded in ike kūpuna throughout the year. So many of these things they got through mele and oli and mo'olelo and our Hawaiian values. So throughout first and second trimester, the haumana had been on many huaka'i to be able to gain all this ike kūpuna. And so we asked our haumana at the very beginning of the project to think about how they received this ike kūpuna and how did our kūpuna build pilina. And you'll see a little bit more of that later in our presentation. So after we knew that the students had reflected on that ike kūpuna, we then asked them we thought about the next step, which was kukupu. And for us, when we were building that out, we really wanted them to think about the research and the information they had learned this year that would lead them to think about what kind of solutions they could come up with for a third trimester project. So they really had to think about the community partners they had worked with this year and what they had taught them as well. So Papahoku got to work with Hanauma Bay as well as Waimanalo Limuhui, and we and Papa Mahina, our first and second graders, got to work with Kako'iwi, Ho'ulu āina, and Ho'opua āina, and many other community partners throughout Waimanalo as well as Ko'olaupoko and Oahu in general. And we really appreciated all the knowledge that they shared with our keiki to show not only what was happening in these areas of our ahupua'a, but also some solutions. They were actually living the values and doing the things that we wanted our haumana to also be doing. So after they took this reflection of their ike kūpuna about the current situation that uka and kai were facing and some of the amazing work that our community partners were already doing, the last step we had to think about was what did we want them to do with that ike that they had? And so for us, we wanted them to really now carry that kuleana themselves. We wanted them to take on that responsibility to actually do something. And normally it would be within our bigger community, but since we were at home, we asked them to look at what could they do in their own houses. So we made an artifact menu here that you can see in the corner, and it showed different options that kids could do. So they could haku mele or oli, they could make a mo'olelo, they could make positive change, or they could add to a project that they had already done. And by doing this, they were now taking that action within their home community. And then we asked them, after having learned about the Palau Pledge earlier in the year, which asked visitors and locals alike to malama āina, to think about their actions towards āina, we asked our haumana to come up with a pledge as well, so that they could make that commitment to their āina. And then the final thing they had to do was they had to present that learning. After they had made this, they had chosen their action, they had completed it, and they did their pledge, they had to make a short video, which you'll see a little bit more about as well. And so I'm going to pass it on to Kumu Melissa now, so that she can share more about what our haumana did.
Mahalo Kēhau Pi ʻohia for setting us up for our project. So as you can see, she went over the kuauhau, kupupu, and hoike, and so now I'm going to show you what that looks like in application to students' work. So we took those 3 components and we created a project packet that was basically an overview and a layout step by step. So that they were able to activate their knowledge, make connections to their community partners, and then take that knowledge and that learning and figure out how to activate it and put it into action. So step 1, we had them review, so they needed to remind themselves, why is uka or kai important? And so this student talked about how kai is connected to uka, and in her picture, she shows the different components of our āina, and then with the spotlighting of our watershed and how the watershed system connects uka to kai. Next step 2, was to think about our ike kūpuna and look to our past. What kuleana did our kūpuna have to malama uka and kai, and how did they build their pilina? And she talked about how our kūpuna would just leave uka alone. They only entered when they needed, and when they needed to enter, they would oli to show their respect and to set their intention about why they are entering uka. And then once they enter, they would only take what they need. So it's that pilina of respect and conservation. Step 3 was focusing on our present and our community partners that we worked with this year. And so we asked them to think about one specific community partner that we worked with, and what was their kuleana to malama uka or kai, and how did they show that? And so she spoke about Oahu Invasive Species Committee and how their kuleana is to take care of the plants and animals by removal of invasive species so that our native plants and animals could thrive. And then the next step was actually brainstorming the hana. So they would look at their artifact menu and think about one thing that would not only spotlight who they are, but would showcase all of their learning and make that connection for everyone. So she talked about, she wants to write a olelo, and she's gonna talk about how a sister and brother learn their kuleana in uka. So from this, she created a little skit. And then after all the students completed working through this packet, then their next step was to actually do the hana. So once they completed their hana, then they were asked to reflect on how that hana allowed them to show their kuleana. And then the final piece was to, like Kēhau Pi ʻohia said, to write a pledge of their own. After they finished all these components, they put it together in a presentation video and then shared that with us. So in this video, you will see a variety of hana that our haumana completed.
You push away the natives and you take up all the space. Invasive species are leaving their trace. Take a look around, take a look there, take a look around. Native species just can't be found. Ask yourself, what our kūpuna would do? Malama ʻāina for me and for you. It is our future. What should it be? Native hands should have a chance to be free.
The kai is important to our honua. The kai is important cause it gives us oxygen. The kai is important cause it gives us food. And we only take what we need. Uhu he e manini o pihi, pi and our limu. Those are some of the foods we have in our important kai.
Aloha, my name is Kolamana. Today I'll be showing you 3 ways to reduce waste.
Okay, so as you could see in the video, there were a lot of wonderful things that our haumana completed. In addition to those projects, we also had students do beach cleanup. We had students do aquaponics to support the garden system at their home. We had some projects about farm to table, and then I had a haumana test for fire ants within the community. And then we also had a lot of, we had skits and olelo about how to show malama ʻāina. So as a result of this project, kumu now have a successful template for a project that we can in the future build on and improve. In addition to this project also connects to our 5th grade defense, and it showcases a lot of the different skills and knowledge that they will be sharing in defending their learning for 5th grade defense. My takeaway overall for this project was ʻOhana involvement. It was such a unique situation, and I think that the project did a really great job of pulling together the resources that were available to their haumana at their home. And the best way to do that was ʻOhana involvement. So not only did they get to share their learning with their ʻOhana, but they did the work together through each step of the project. And the most important was they're sharing the achievement of their successfully completed project.
Mahalo kumu, Melissa. it's really important to kind of see this process even as kumu, because we're constantly learning and growing too. So after we go through the project with our haumana, it's also important that we do this reflecting. And I think it was nice to have some time to step back. When we were in the trenches doing the work, we were just trying to survive. And then when the end of the year happened, it was nice to get feedback from other kumu and even parents and makua to say like, that was a really cool thing you guys did. So it was nice for me to finally like get a breath of air, and then look back and say, okay, wait, that was really great. What are some things that I learned as a kumu? So the big takeaway for me was the individualized learning. So usually during our third trimester hoike, the haumana want to make their own projects and we try to guide them. But as a kumu, it's really, really hard to try to manage 20 different projects. So this is the first time that each keiki kind of had their complete own project. That usually we kind of do more group projects, or we'll kind of have like a kumu help with them and maybe a group of 10 or so. But this was the first time we saw such a wide variety of projects. And each haumana had a very unique connection to their understanding of their kuleana tukai or their kuleana tuuka, because it was really their knowledge that they were kind of showing. It wasn't their friends. And as a ʻOhana, they made positive changes, and you could see that in their videos and in their work. So for me, I'm really thinking about kind of how Melissa said that this sets us up for 5th grade defense. It also makes me think of, hey, even if we are not in distance learning, which we really hope we're not at the end of next school year, this is still a project that can happen at home. If we really set them up throughout the school year, then we could see such a wide variety. And then that enacting of the kuleana really happens. We can talk about it, we can learn about it, but until haumana and their ʻOhana are going out in the community and making positive change, that's what we're looking for. So it was nice to see that this project kind of pushed us as kumu and haumana as well. And I think that this is something we might stick around with for the next year.
Mahalo kumu Kēhau. So for me, it really did come back to that kuleana piece that kumu Kēhau was just talking about. And not only the kuleana for our students and for our ʻOhana, but also for us as kumu. And if we know what's most important to us as a kula, as a community, how do we push ourselves to continue to do that and live the skills that we're asking our haumana to live as well? And so when I looked at this project, there was so much of an investment of time and mana and just love and passion that we haven't seen before, because of like kumu Kēhau was saying, this is the first time we've had so many individualized projects. So kids really got to choose what are the things that they're doing in the community. And I chose these pictures of my haumana because they just look so happy in completing these projects. And that's really what we want to see, because when they're doing that, they're building pilina to the āina and to their place. And without doing that, we can't be making that positive impact without that relationship. And so that really came out in these projects, that kuleana to all these different spaces, and that we can live that at home. And so again, we just want to mahalo you all for joining us and for allowing us, like kumu Kēhau said, this time for us to reflect as well as kumu. It's been a crazy, crazy year, and we don't know what we're going into quite yet next year. But we do know that positive things can come out of crazy situations. And if we give our haumana that opportunity to shine and to take on that kuleana, in so many ways they embraced it and they went above and beyond what we expected. And so we're gonna end with the voices of our haumana, because we think that is most appropriate. And so as we had mentioned before, we asked our haumana to take a pledge to use ʻike kūpuna to make a positive impact within their community, whichever community that was. And so we're going to let them be the last voice you hear today. And we hope that they inspire you to make a pledge of your own and commit yourself to aloha āina in whatever way that may be. So mahalo for joining us, and we hope you enjoy our haumana.
I promise as a keiki āina to use ʻike kūpuna to have a pono relationship with our honua. I will protect our native animals so they can thrive without harm. I promise to take care of the island so we can have plants for food and medicine. I will help to teach others what not to do. I promise to take care of my garden on almost any circumstance. I will use aloha by local. I will use aloha to live malama honua by not taking from puka. I will use local maikai to live malama honua by regrowing food scraps. I will use ola kio maikai to live malama honua by keeping my body healthy and my family healthy. I will use malama to live malama honua by watering my lo'i every day. By planting native plants and bringing natives back. By building a garden, a rain catchment system, and not taking what I don't need. By making a compost bin. By supporting local farmers and feeding kūpuna. By thinking good thoughts for my orchard.
By cleaning and taking care of uka.
I will use malama to live malama honua by picking up care.
A Maukea Oka āina ikapono, the sovereignty of this land is perpetuated through righteousness.